empathy-powered growth. Round of applause for Charlie. Thank you. Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me now? Okay, holy moly, right after lunch. I wish I had a mustache like you, Pat. So you're going to have to deal with my baldness. Okay, I don't know who has a worse setup right now, me having to talk to you right after lunch or all of you having to listen to me right after lunch. Tough go. We'll do a poll at the end. As Pat said, I'm Charlie. I'm here from Vancouver. I used to live in Toronto. I love coming back to the city. I used to work in marketing for a bunch of consumer brands, Arc'teryx, Red Bull, and Aritzia. I know what you're thinking. How did this guy get hired at Aritzia? Insane. That's what my mom was thinking too. Today, we're going to talk about Chime. Quick show of hands. Anybody here heard about Chime? No? Okay. Chime went public yesterday in the US at an $11.4 billion valuation. They're one of the fastest growing financial apps in the US. So we're going to do a full teardown into what they've done to kind of drive their growth. But we're going to set the stage a little bit first here. I run a company called RightMetric. Basically what we do is we're a research firm, we help brands look externally using digital data. So what we do is we buy a whole bunch of different data sets, we pull it all into one place, we have some proprietary tech and a whole bunch of people way smarter than I am who put that stuff together and then are able to generate actionable recommendations about what you should do with your digital strategy. We work across sectors, across industry. I don't come from banking or financial services. Like I said, I come from women's fashion, which is incredibly ironic, as well as energy drinks and some other places, and we do this for big brands. So this is kind of what you all look like right now when I say the word Outsight. Okay, so let's talk about Outsight first, and then we're going to actually get into Chime. So when we talk about Outsight, this is the dictionary definition of this, right? It's the power or act of perceiving external things. Okay, cool. I just hit you with a dictionary definition. Yeah, that's fine. What does that actually mean for us as marketers? It means using signals from external data sources to make our marketing activities more efficient and more effective, right? There's been a whole bunch of talks about how do we use our own data, learn more about our existing customers, create better experiences. What we're going to talk about with looking at Chime is looking externally. Now, this is super important. Who here has been asked to do more with less? Every marketer. Yeah, weird, right? So, okay, this stuff can be really, really helpful for us. It can help us with our strategies. It can help us with our tactics. It can help us fight for more budget. It can help us keep the little budget or resource that we have left. So, looking externally isn't really anything new, right? We've kind of seen this progression. Sorry, by the way, I know it's right after lunch. There's going to be a link where you can get this at the end. So don't feel like you have to rush or take notes. Like, you'll get the whole thing. You can email me, whatever. So we started with focus groups, right? We get a bunch of weirdos in a room. We incentivize them. We ask them some questions. They lie to us. And then we go, yeah, let's go do this. Hot take, sue me. So then we moved over to kind of surveys. Then there was social listening, right? That came out. And now what's really interesting is there's a ton of these behavioral signals that we can start to see externally. Right? We've seen this over the last 10, 15 years where it's like, yeah, we can get an understanding of customer data, how people are moving and behaving, but now we can actually see a lot of this stuff externally. So when we talk about Outsight, for the sake of today's conversation, we could go super, super deep. I only have 30 minutes with you and 48 slides, which is why I'm talking like I've just had a whole bunch of coffee. So when we think about, or Red Bull, I guess, I don't know. So when we think about our audience, when we think about using Outsight to understand an audience, we want to understand who are they, where are they spending time, what media are they consuming, what brands are they following, what are they talking about. Now, you should already know this about your existing customers and your existing audience. I'm talking about similar group of people who are not yet within your ecosystem. Okay? So that's kind of piece one, is like we should be doing this audience research and understanding the behaviors of our target audience so that we can bring more of those people closer to our brand. Next thing here. Competitors. Does anybody here do competitive intel? Quick show of hands. Yeah? Like more formalized or probably more just like, yeah, you follow them on social, you subscribe to their email newsletter, that sort of thing. If you don't do competitive intel, don't be dumb. Just please don't be dumb. There's so much that we can learn from our competitors. I've worked at one of the biggest brands in the world that like in 2017 when I was at Red Bull, we were the most shared brand on the internet, period, full stop. We had teams of people that would sit there and look at who was earning all of the attention. right? So you think you're going to sit in your organization and not look externally and not look at competitors because you know better is just a losing strategy, okay? What can we learn from competitors? We can see what's working well for them, what's not working well. How are they targeting? How much are they spending? How are they doing their creative, right? Is there any things that's cyclical? Are they doing something out in left field that the market isn't doing? There's so much that we can learn from looking externally, right? And the final piece is content. Content is near and dear to my heart. Believe it or not, before I got into analytics and insight and all that sort of stuff, I was a video guy. I made content, and that's how I got started. Content as a line item in a marketing P&L is huge, right? All of the biggest brands in the world spend a crap ton of cash on content. Previously, it's kind of been a black box, right? We haven't been able to get an understanding of, oh, if we produce it like this, does this drive performance? And with some of the advancements that we're going to start seeing in AI, very, very quickly here, we're going to be able to go, oh, this is what was on screen, and this is what actually caused this. And that's really exciting. So all of these kind of questions, all those kind of like little dots that we're seeing, all of those things are little nuggets and actions that we can take if we start asking these questions. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of data sources that you can pull from. This is, you know, if you're looking for like, hey, I want to get started and get one or two tools, download the deck. These are tools that are publicly available. You can go buy them. Some of them are super expensive. Some of them are like $100 a month. So yeah, just wanted to include that. So why does any of this matter? Does anybody here know Will Rogers? He was an American comic. He has this famous quote: "It isn't what we don't know that gives us trouble. It's what we think we know that just ain't so." If we let that sink in for a moment, we all have assumptions about, you know, I've worked here for 10 years. I've been in this industry for 25 years, right? We all have those assumptions and those biases, right? I think the thing that I've learned in working in consumer brands and then running a research company now for 8 years, I always get asked, oh, you've seen all this stuff. What's the biggest learning? The biggest learning is that I don't know shit. The biggest learning is that every time I have a stereotype in my head of like, oh yeah, you know, this industry or this person, this is for sure how they behave. And then we actually look at how they behave, holy moly, it's different, right? So, internal data isn't enough. It's important, but it's not enough, especially with how competitive it's getting, right? Earning someone's attention today is like insane. We all know that. That's a different talk show. Maybe I'll talk about that next year. And so we're going to talk about Chime. This is a photo of me diving into, oh, look at this, Copilot. Not mine. That's me diving. Can you imagine if I was wearing that up here? That'd be insane. Okay, so getting the most from today. I want everybody to have an open mind. So think about where your business is at today. Is there a specific goal or is there a challenge, right? We're going to talk about a lot with Chime, and there's going to be things that are related to strategy, and there's going to be things that are related to tactics, right? And then reflect and apply these strategies or tactics, right? Now, not everything's going to fit perfectly, right? There might be something that looks really good here in their data, but you're like, that would never work for our business. Totally fair, but come at this with an open mind. So, what is Chime? US-based, neobank, no physical branches, everything runs through an app. They got their start at targeting a very, very different group of people than most neobanks or these kind of new fintechs. They actually went to the underserved as opposed to going after super affluent professionals, which is really, really interesting. And if my clicker works here, it's no joke. 22 million customers, 30% year-over-year growth. I don't know, what do the big banks have here in Canada? RBC, I think, has like 17 million customers. Now, obviously the company valuation isn't the same, but like they're growing. These people know how to acquire customers, and they're doing it super different than everybody else, right? And they also went after an arguably tougher segment, gig workers, students, newcomers, right? And we can learn a lot from what they did. So this chart is a little bit small. You'll have to download the thing. So what they did really, really well when they're actually building their system is they looked at signal in the marketplace and then latched onto that. So that graph on the top is actually searches for early wage access. And if you look at it, there was kind of nothing, and then, oh, it started to kind of go up. The graph on the bottom is mentions and searches of Chime. There's no coincidence. They're kind of like this. They found something that the market was telling them in plain sight, and they have attached their brand to that, and since they've kind of exploded from that. So who did they build for, right? I kind of talked about this rough target audience, and it's 18 to 34-year-olds, lower middle income bracket, gig workers, service workers, mobile first, right? Digital native. They might have less formal education, right? So this is yes in the US, but we absolutely have these people here in Canada. We actually have 7.3 million of them and counting in Canada. 20% of our population is this, and growing, right? And they have different needs than all of us here who are salaried employees at our jobs. Completely different needs, right? So what did Chime get right when they went after these people? First thing was they listened, and some of this stuff, low fee, no fee, like I'm saying that now, none of you have never heard that before. You've obviously heard low fee, no fee, right? Early pay with SpotMe, that was their kind of real wedge that they drove with. And then a lot of their design and language and content, which we're going to get into, is very, very simple, very culturally relevant, very digitally native. Okay? So we scraped all of the publicly available stuff related to Chime, forums, social stuff, review sites, all that. Over 79% of it was positive sentiment. And it was around these three kind of buckets: low fees, no fees, early deposit, direct deposit, mobile app convenience, right? So no surprising thing there. And they built their app around this. This is a lot of text, so take a photo of it, or if you want to download it, there's going to be a few slides like this that are quite text heavy. What they did was they just created these really awesome experiences. And there's some data points here that we can look at, right? So mobile UX, their average app store ranking is between 4.7 and 4.9. It's higher than traditional FIs. Well, they do that because they designed it that way, right? When you engage with them in the app, it's super chat-focused, human tone, not like this robotic thing, right? Their brand voice is culturally relevant, right? Their ratings and reviews are way higher, 4-star plus on Trustpilot, 1.2 to 1.3 kind of for the traditional ones. And the onboarding experience is super seamless. They're taking a page out of the book of Uber, Airbnb, these other places, right? They're transferring. That's something that we all need to understand as marketers. You're not just competing with the other bank down the street or the other credit union down the street. You're actually competing with the experience that Amazon, Uber, Spotify, Starbucks, whoever. It's not fair. Humans take this and transfer this experience, but it is what it is, right? I'll give an example, super quick aside. When I got into marketing at Aritzia, I remember going into one of my first meetings, and they're like, okay, we have our big campaign, and I'm sitting there being like, okay, cool, like what are we doing? And they go, free shipping. And I was like, okay, yeah, have you heard of Amazon Prime? But free shipping was a big deal for them internally. They were like, this is a huge benefit. It didn't actually go that well for us, and then they were like, oh shit, we got to figure out how to do free shipping now. And they adjusted their prices and whatever, right? So this idea of transferring expectations, we all do this. Whether we here in marketing want to believe it or not, our customers and the people that we're trying to reach do this. Now, let's actually get into some specific data. So this is the mobile app usage data of Chime's app. So we have Android on the left, we have iOS on the right, and what we're looking at here is stickiness. So monthly active users, weekly active users, daily active users. We can see it broken out between Android and iOS. We also pulled a whole bunch of data from Canadian financial app stickiness. So the average stickiness of all of your apps, 26%. Chime's is 32%. It's not by coincidence. It's because they built it in a different way. So let's talk about their content and channel strategy. This is where I come from. This is the stuff that I love. So they don't position themselves as a bank. They position themselves as a lifestyle brand. When I was at Red Bull, we sold sugar water. We didn't consider ourselves a sugar water business. We consider ourselves a media company. Because whether or not you buy that sugar water from us, you're going to spend time with our brand, and you're going to enjoy it. So, anybody here produce content that looks like this? Nobody does. Nobody in banking or financial services would produce content that looks like this. This stuff performs. This stuff is 22 million customers. Why? Because it doesn't look like a bank. It looks like something that someone actually wants to spend time with and engage with, which is one of the things that we're gonna see here. So, they speak plainly. Everything kind of looks familiar. It feels human, right? And they have a very different strategy organically versus their paid stuff. And we'll see that in a second here, right? So remember, this is their organic content. This is kind of like the look and feel, right? Now, we've kind of broken down everything from an organic and a paid side of things. So organically, let's read these. Entertainment first content, influencer storytelling, cultural fluency, light touch product mentions. The product is barely woven into their organic content. Let me say that again. Their product is barely mentioned or woven into their organic content. Now, on the performance marketing side of things, it's all like performance marketing, direct benefit, like buy now, like all of these things that we've kind of been talking about. But this is two very different strategies that come together to create a really, really great experience. I spoke at a conference yesterday in Calgary. That's why I wasn't here yesterday. I was talking to one of your peers that might have some colleagues here in the room, and it was a social person, and they said, yeah, I have this brand team coming at me saying I need to post this webinar on Instagram. And I go, you're running organic, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, how's that going to do? And he's like, I'd rather die than post this. Because he knows no one cares about that. But it's a brand that we all know that had a big spot recently that we would all know if you saw it from a TV show that was filmed here. And, how can you actually have your organic presence be something that people would be willing to spend time with you, whether or not they buy your product or service? I'll go back to the Red Bull example. Whether or not you bought the sugar water, you were going to spend time with us. We were going to entertain you. We were going to inspire you. We were going to educate you, right? That is something, it's simple, not easy, right? So I think this is something that's really, really interesting in financial because a lot of people, there's so much that can be done from a financial perspective in terms of education, entertainment, inspiration, that just kind of falls flat. So when we actually looked at their organic content, this is, I think, over the past 12 months, everything in this deck was up until February of 2025, so past 12 months. So when we look at these content buckets, we pull everything into one place, and then we go, okay, what are the kind of types of content here? So influencer activations, contests and campaigns, obviously with regulatory stuff, you have to be very, very careful here. Product education, lifestyle finance, social impact and purpose. What you'll notice is some of the lower performing buckets, sports and athlete partnerships. Anybody here do sports and athlete partnerships? Nah, no one's going to put up their hand, even if they do, right? It's interesting that it didn't perform well. So when we think about how they're actually leaning into their organic content, they're actually not even really doing it themselves, right? They're working with influencers, which is really interesting. Instead of them trying to be cool, how can they be the one that throws the party and invites the cool people there so the party is cool, right? Different strategy. So this is quick kind of example you can see. I think one thing that's really interesting, you can't really see this TikTok video in the middle of the screen. Does that look something like that would come from a bank? Probably not. To me, that looks like Speaker's Corner, Much Music, RIP. That looks like something that like BuzzFeed would do or Vice would do or something like that, right? Whereas like these guys are just trying to get a Gen Z in the US to open a checking account. So pretty interesting just to see kind of like how they do it. Now, when we look at their performance side of things, their spend. They spend a bunch of money. This one kind of green line above the top, this had to do with a one-off campaign. So the reason why we've highlighted it green is, they spent $3.1 million on this campaign. They distributed some stuff through YouTube, and they went really, really niche into this site called 247sports.com. Like, that was the thing. But they're kind of like always on. Facebook, 30% of their budget. Instagram was 14% of their budget, but it dropped to almost $0 by the end of 2024. TikTok, really interesting. They only used it in Q1. But no spend from May 2024 to 2025. I have a hypothesis. I think, and I don't know, but I think that's because their organic on TikTok was just working so well, where they were like, we just don't need to pay. We can just create awesome stuff, and the algorithm will find an audience for it, right? And then display, they basically took to nothing. So, remember I showed you that slide earlier about like what their organic content looks like. This is what their ads look like, okay? So, you see the juxtaposition between the two, right? Like they're very, very different. But it's smart because they go, hey, we're going to create something that people actually want to give a shit about in the first place, and spend time with our brand, right? They'll engage with our brand, they'll hopefully follow us, they'll be entertained, they'll have this positive association. And then, only then, once they've kind of spent time with us, then we'll actually hit them with something where it's like, buy now, right? Too many people are trying to close on the first date. Don't do it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay, so where are things headed, right? I'm kind of hitting you with a whole bunch of information. You're like, geez, this maple glazed salmon is just kind of like sitting here and like, it's crazy. I know, I feel it too. That's why I'm pacing. Just kidding. Well, I don't know. I had the curry too. So, where are things headed? Culture matters. We saw what they were spending. It wasn't a ton of cash, right? It was like a few million in ad spend. Now, we're not taking into account the cost of influencer activation, their team, all of that, right? But like some of those budgets, when we pull some of the budgets about like what, Simple spends or RBC spends or whatever, way smaller. I can see all the data, it's way smaller. But what they did is they were super, super culturally relevant, right? So that's number one. Number two, creative that fits. So things that are designed for native consumption. That TikTok content where it was like, girl talk or whatever, that's something that someone would see on TikTok and it would fit into the rest of the feed, right? It would actually be like, oh, I will actually watch this, not, oh, I'm watching my content, insert shitty ad, right? Like it fits, right? And they were able to generate these big results kind of on a small budget. So where we think things are going moving forward is, number one, winners will kind of build this idea of education into everyday banking. We think that they'll speak in the voice of the user, not the institution. So instead of us sitting in our ivory towers of marketing being like, this is the right copy, look at what people are saying and steal that language into what you're doing. It's all out there, right? Use the language that they're using back to them. That's how they speak. I don't understand half of it, some of the Gen Z stuff, but we all have different language that we speak, right? And then winners will build tools based on actual needs. Meet people where they are, not where you think they are. Not where your persona exercise from 3 years ago tells you that one snapshot in time is where you thought they were, okay? And so we think, and what we're seeing, Chime actually acts like a media company, right? We looked at their organic social. You don't even really know that it's a bank, right? We see this across the board with some of the best brands in the world, some of the biggest brands in the world, the ones that earn attention. They actually earn the attention first, build credibility, and then they can move it over into some sort of conversion focus and pull people in as a customer. Oh, my clicker here. So, what can Canadian FIs learn from Chime? We're going to go kind of quick here because I only have 7 minutes left. So Chime isn't new. They're a decade old. They started in 2014. And the innovation isn't really tech. Like, everyone sitting here is like, yeah, we have an app, right? But what they did, how they designed it, how they built culture into it, how they cracked into emotional and frictionless experiences is really what has driven a lot of this growth, right? So, audience. Understand your audience. A lot of text here. Sorry. Trying to ram this down into a smaller thing. And by the way, this presentation, we did an 85-page teardown that you can get at the end of this. This is me trying to condense it down, so that's kind of why I'm like, there's just so much stuff in here. But what do we need to do? We need sharper segmentation. And when I say sharper segmentation, I mean based on behavioral stuff so that we as marketers can action it instead of getting like, this is, Charlie the stylish fun seeker. If you're a performance marketer, you're like, what does that even mean, right? We need to tell trust stories, not trust claims, right? So some of the storytelling, I think, can go a lot deeper, right? And then how do we think longer term, right? How do we build brand? Now, simple, not easy, right? When it comes to platforms, build on the platforms that reflect actual attention as opposed to what you think, right? So, like I said, consumers aren't comparing your digital experience to the bank down the street. Where they spend time is with these other apps that are super easy to use, that are seamless, great experiences, well-designed, minimal, like all of these things, right? Now, some of you sitting in here might not be able to control the design of your mobile app. I get that. But when we look at from a pure usage perspective, the data doesn't lie. People spend more time in stuff that's built that way, across categories. Some designers might be pissed off that I just said that, but it's not me, it's all of us. We're behaving that way, right? Fish where the fish are. Classic Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger quote, right? Show up where attention lives. TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, Discord, right? Like what we're seeing is this massive fragmentation of channels. Now, please don't misinterpret what I just said. I'm not saying abandon Facebook, abandon Instagram, abandon all that sort of stuff, but just get an understanding that we're seeing this massive segmentation of things and diversification of people where they spend their time. I always love this. If you ask someone to open their phone and look at the bottom 4 apps on their home screen, that'll tell you a lot about the person. It's a really interesting party trick. I would argue that's some of the most valuable real estate in the world. It's those four icons down there. And some people have insane shit in their dock. Like my wife, when we first started dating, I did this. That tells you a lot. It's actually insane that I'm married. I opened up, I'm like, okay, do this. And, I have like phone, messages. I think I had email and my browser. She had the IMDb icon app on her home screen. And I'm like, you don't even like going to the movies. She's like, yeah, but I just want to have it close in case I need to look something up. And I was like, Google, please. Anyway, different talk show. Building product that actually has emotional utility. Now, this word emotional, like what do I mean by that? Build product that's easy to use, right? I bank with RBC. I don't know if anybody from RBC is here. I bank with RBC. The amount of times that I have had to go into the branch because I couldn't do what I was trying to do on the app was so frustrating. And when I walk into the branch, they go, oh, you can do this in the app. And I go, no, I've tried that. No, you can't. That's the reason I'm here, right? Let's build and avoid that. We have the power upstream to build and avoid that. And we can actually also build these experiences that focus on how people feel as opposed to us in marketing being like, this is the feature and this is the benefit, right? Let's tap into emotion. So, Chime isn't in Canada, but if they came to Canada, this is probably what they'd do, because this is what they did in the US. They actually went super local into like not the big metropolitan areas, right? So they didn't go into New York and LA and anything like that. So if they came into Canada, they might come into Canada, but they'd go like North York, Brampton, Scarborough, right? In Vancouver, they might go to like Coquitlam, Surrey, like whatever, right? In Calgary, maybe Okotoks, right? So they're really, really regionalized. They would also lean on creators, because that's what they did. Let's actually get professional storytellers to tell our story in a way that resonates with the people that we are trying to reach, right? Instead of us thinking that we're going to tell our story, and I get that. There's some preciousness of having to try and slowly let go and get a creator to do it right. But there's tons of examples of how you can get creators to actually be your wedge through the door, right? And then from a content perspective, it's very, very relatable. It's very unpolished. So this is a huge, you're going to get this if you download the thing. This is like a lot, and I'm sorry, I hate myself that I put this much text on a slide. This is kind of like what they did, what it solves, what you could consider doing in the next 90 to 180 days, and why it matters. So, if you want, I'll leave it up here for a sec, take a photo. Otherwise, you will be able to download the kind of full version of this. Okay, can I see a few people with phones, so I'll just wait. I know, I'm so sorry. I'm like breaking my own rule here. Okay, cool, nice. So, key takeaways. Real growth starts with real people. Fish where the fish are, right? Go where trust is being built. Content drives connection. Okay? The amount of content that is so over-polished, think of all of us. The rise of short-form video, we all do these crazy campaigns. I'll tell a quick Red Bull story. When I was at Red Bull, we did this thing with this guy named Daniel Bodine. He was the world's first double backflip on a snowmobile. The dude's absolutely insane. So, in typical Red Bull fashion, we had the $1 million film shoot with the helicopter filming him. Jesus. And what we had seen in our data was a lot of this iPhone video stuff had performed really, really well. So what we did was we sent our big production crew there and we said, hey, everywhere that big fancy camera goes, we had an intern with an iPhone, just like this. Like following around, right? And then we had this full 3-minute clip that was super polished, right? Like Red Bull style content. And then we had this crappy iPhone video, and it was the first time that he had landed the thing. And so you see him land, he lands, and our intern literally is like running there. You can hear him breathing, like Blair Witch style, like, you know. And then he gets there, and Daniel has just landed this world first. He's crying. He's like swearing in Swedish. He's a Swedish guy. He's like, holy crap, I can't believe I did that. Which video do you think did more views? Second one, by a long shot, right? So what we're actually seeing is a lot of the stuff we watch isn't as polished. Yet we as marketers put out all polished shit. Why is that? Right? Content is the variable, especially with where algorithms are going and with content production it's going to get cheaper and cheaper with AI, right? So content is the variable. Now, I'm also going to say you don't need to be a neobank to act like one, right? There's some stuff that I've said today that might have offended some of you. I'm sorry. Hope we can still be friends. There's some stuff in here that could be smart for your brand. Maybe yes, maybe no, right? And progress beats perfection. You're not going to do all this stuff today. If there's one thing that you can steal from this, please steal, test, try things, and make mistakes. So with that, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I'm going to be around for the rest of the day, and see you soon.
Perfect. I know there's like a gazillion questions. Come on up. I mean, they're going to give me a hack for going over budget. Go. Okay, questions. I'll allow 3. Get your hands up quick.
Hello. Hi, thank you. I'm over here. Jamie Ross, Wedgwood Insurance. You mentioned influencers and content creators. Where do you see the lifespan of that? For instance, hiring a content creator that is shilling shoes on a Monday, insurance on a Tuesday, fast food on a Wednesday. When is that generation going to burn out of that messaging?
Oh, bigger talk.
Look into your crystal ball.
Can you hear me? No. Now? Okay. So I think influencer selection is super, super important, and I think a lot of brands don't do it well. I'll give you an example. When I got to Aritzia, we literally chose influencers before I got there as like, she's cool. That was it. Right? And then like, is it a brand fit? And really like brand fit meant like, did Brian Hill, the CEO, sign off on it? Like that was it, right? There was no rigor into what else are they shilling, to your point, right? Like, is it this product or this product or this product? The other thing is we were literally just looking at followers. I could give a shit about their followers actually, because there are different types of influencers, right? Some influencers you use for awareness, right? But some influencers you should be using to like drive traffic, right? I'll give an example. Kylie Jenner, Kardashian. That's an awareness play, okay? Anybody here know who Jillian Harris is? Jillian Harris? Okay, when I was at Aritzia, we worked with Jillian, and we also worked with one of the Jenners. 2 very different strategies behind the scenes. That was an awareness play, but when Jillian says to her audience, hey, I'm doing this thing with Aritzia, I'm doing a contest, I need you to follow here, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, 75% of the audience does that, right? So it is very, very different. So I think it's so situational, but I do think that people buy from people, right? We see this, the personification of brands. So I think if you're going to choose someone, to your point, you can't just choose someone willy-nilly of like, oh yeah, on Monday they're selling Taco Bell, and on Tuesday here they are with my credit card, and on Wednesday, it's like buy these tires. But I think we're going to start to see a lot of these influencers or creators really, really cut down on the amount of brands that they're working with, align with brands of products that they use, and charge more, and probably want longer term engagement or engagements from like an influencer brand, like contract perspective, so that you can actually build together. Yeah.
He has long answers, so
Sorry.
one more. That's okay.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi.
How do you play all of this in a B2B space?
Oh boy.
Yeah. Okay, we're here another half hour now.
I'm like different
I
talk
need
show.
leverage for my managers back home.
So can you get more specific in the B2B space? Like one area, like what do you do?
Investments.
So are you trying to look?
Brokers. I rock brokers that
Okay,
sell a shitload of money, that are always in a tie.
Yeah, so okay, I would want to get an understanding of how brokers behave digitally. There's a tool that you can use. It's very inexpensive. It's called SparkToro. So you could type in, broker or the title of the person, right? This person follows. This person engages. Some of the data might start to break down because it's like we're not talking about like, are they interested in shoes or running or like whatever the thing is. But Spark Toro would be a place that I would start to kind of look for that sort of thing. If you kind of just need like a DIY tool. B2B is hard. That's why you heard my deep sigh. It's tough. Do you like pain? But yeah, it's hard, but I'm happy to talk to you after and get into more specifics. Yeah, cool.
You've got to go to Vancouver. Are you going to hang around for a little while?
I'm hanging around I fly at 8, so I'm here for a little while.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Okay. Sorry, we didn't have time for
Sorry.
more questions. But Charlie, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.